We'd like to begin our discussion with the importance of buying truth personally. No one else can do that for us. And then we'll talk just for a moment about how much effort it takes to do that. Let's begin our discussion with something that happened to King David of Israel. He wanted to buy a threshing floor from a man named Araunah, and he wanted to offer up sacrifices to Jehovah. But Araunah, the landowner, said, "Look, David, take the threshing floor. I'll give you the cattle. I'll give you whatever you need. Just take it and worship Jehovah." But how did David respond? At 2 Samuel 24, verse 24, he said this, "I will not offer up to Jehovah my God burnt sacrifices that cost me nothing." David realized that it had to be his personal sacrifice in order for it to have value. Likewise, when we buy truth, we have to pay for it, in effect, ourselves. How much effort does it take? Well, let's open our Bibles to the book of 2 Peter, chapter 1, and let's look at a couple of expressions here that will help us to appreciate the effort that's required. 2 Peter, chapter 1, verse 5, "For this very reason, put forth all earnest effort to supply to your faith virtue, to your virtue knowledge." So we're always having to add, to supply to our knowledge of the truth. And what kind of effort? Earnest effort. Sincere, strenuous, with depth of feeling, conscientious. And how about this matter of supplying knowledge? The original Greek noun here used meant leader of a chorus. What does that have to do with supply? Well, back in the day when this was written, if a city wanted to put on a stage play and they had a chorus, men of the city who had money would actually go into their own pockets and pay for the training and the maintenance of that chorus for the city. And they had to spend a lot, but they were willing to do it for what they considered to be a worthy cause. So it was a personal sacrifice on their part. So likewise, no one else can read for us, study for us, research for us, meditate for us. It has to be personal, and it has to be done sincerely. But now, even though we get the truth, and we're glad that we have, we want to make sure that we never sell it. We never lose it. Now, these are expressions, buy and sell. They're business expressions, aren't they? Well, let's see what principles in the Bible can help us to be on guard against the devil and this system who are always trying to get us to sell or to get rid of our truth. Let's go this time to the book of Proverbs, chapter 20, and we want to look at verse 14. Proverbs 20, verse 14. Now, this is a dishonest businessman, and notice what he does. "It is no good. It is no good," says the buyer. Then he goes away and boasts about himself. So he sees something he wants, but he doesn't want to pay the value. So he runs down the product. He criticizes it and makes it look like it's inferior. And then the seller, if he's not aware and alert, he will actually sell his product for far less than it's worth, practically nothing. And then this dishonest buyer goes off and he brags about it. Well, buyers are not the only ones that can be dishonest. Sellers can be dishonest too, can't they? This is the product you need. It's exactly what you want. But they don't tell you about the long history of problems that it has. They don't tell about the cost that it takes to maintain it and the difficulties that come with owning that product. All they want you to do is buy this beautiful product. Well, how can we take that principle and apply it to what Satan and his system tries to do to us? Jehovah warned about those who say this, as recorded in Isaiah 5:20. "Woe to those who say that good is bad and bad is good." So Satan, with all of his cunning and his deception, will try to say to us, you know that truth that you purchased? That was a bad purchase. It's too burdensome. It took away your freedom. You lost your independence. Now, I've got some products that will really make you happy right now. Well, we know that in the business world, the buyer always has to separate the facts from the salesman's empty or foolish talk or his nonsense. Not all salesmen are like that, but many are. So we have to be careful that we don't buy into something that seems so good, but in reality doesn't have value at all. So how do we fight all of this propaganda from the system of things around us to make us feel that we've made a bad purchase with the truth? Well, we have a very good example in Jesus. Remember the time when the devil came to him, as recorded in Matthew chapter 4, and the devil said to him, I'm going to give you all the kingdoms of the world and their glory, and all you have to do is one act of worship to me. How did Jesus respond? Go away, Satan. He knew that that was a lie, and he knew it was nonsense. But how did he support and protect his truth? He went to the truth. He said to Satan, it is written, it is Jehovah your God you must worship, and it is to him alone you must render sacred service. Well, that was the truth from God's word. And that's how we can protect our truth that we've worked so hard to obtain and to maintain. We use the scriptures, the truth from Jehovah, to defend our precious purchase. So may we continue to do that and not be fooled by this system of things and all of its glitter that it says it wants to give to us. Now, in considering what we've talked about thus far, personal effort and never letting the truth go because we view it as so valuable, we can talk just briefly about the Apostle Paul. At Acts chapter 22 and verse 3, he talked about his previous education, obtaining knowledge, and he said, I was educated at the feet of Gamaliel, instructed according to the strictness of the ancestral law, and zealous for God. Saul, as he was known then, was being trained at the feet of one of the most famous and renowned teachers in the first century, Gamaliel. Well, what did Gamaliel teach? He promoted belief in the oral law, and he placed greater emphasis on the oral law than the inspired scriptures. So when the Hebrew scriptures didn't say specifically or explicitly what a person should do, men like Gamaliel came up with all of these oral traditions through the years, and they knew them well, and the rabbis would make the decision for the person, not the person. In fact, Gamaliel was so esteemed that he was the first to be called rabbin, which was a title higher than a rabbi. And Paul had to learn all of this oral tradition. And research shows that it was a very painstaking, relentless training program where they had to memorize all of these voluminous laws and make it their own. There would be benefits in the secular world, prestige, but when Paul learned the truth, what did he do? He came to appreciate Mark 7, 7, and 8, when Jesus said, it is in vain that they keep worshiping me, for they teach commands of men as doctrines. You let go of the commandment of God and cling to the tradition of men. So Paul understood he thought he had something of value, but it was all in vain. And from the time that he accepted and bought the truth, he never let it go, did he? Regardless of the pain and the suffering and the sacrifices he made, he considered it all worth it. What a fine example of personally buying at great sacrifice. And as the years went by, Paul never sold the truth, did he? At Philippians chapter 3, he talked about his life as a servant of God, and he had no regrets. He said what he gave up was a lot of refuse, and the original terms there could indicate dung or food garbage. he made the right purchase, didn't he? And when he taught and when he wrote on inspiration, we do not hear the Apostle Paul say, when I was with Gamaliel, this is what he said. Or Gamaliel would do this in this case. Never. He always went back to the real truth, the truth from Jehovah's inspired word. What a fine example for us all. So what have we learned this morning? Truth is valuable, and it's worth every personal effort to obtain it. But be careful. Don't let the devil fool us into believing we made a bad purchase. Resist the devil in this system. And as a result, we'll have no regrets over our decision. We'll always be so grateful that we took the time and effort to buy truth, and we've held on to it. And then the God of truth will reward us with everlasting life.